Welcome to the Peaked podcast, where I talk about gender identity ideology and other bad ideas, women's rights, and free speech from a European point of view. Voila, so we've begun. So Angeliqa, hello, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks. You have a bit of an unusual and very intriguing story that's happened to you. And first of all, I would just like to introduce you. You are a Californian in Sweden or a Swede with California backgrounds? What's your deal?
I'm a Swedish-American. I was born here in Sweden, but raised in California, and I also lived there as an adult.
You sound very
So-
Californian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've lived here in Sweden now. I'm married and have kids. So I've lived here now for about 15 years, I think.
Right.
So it's been a while since I lived in California.
But you were raised in the Swedish language.
I was, yes.
Right. With both parents speaking Swedish, or everyone around you
Yes.
basically speaking Swedish.
Yes.
Very good.
But
That
I'm
must have been
I'm a dual citizen now, so
right.
I keep track of both countries.
Where is your loyalty if there's a football match between the States and Sweden?
Ouch. Well, I would have to say the States.
Right. Okay. It's
When
funny
it comes
because
to sports, it's usually States.
right. It's funny because you're the two most blonde things ever, California and Sweden, and yet here you are with your dark hair. But I'm sure that's not the
I
first time
know.
just as
Nope.
I said it, I realized you've probably heard that 1,000 times.
Yep, so many times.
I love being unoriginal. Right. So, well, this is no laughing matter. Actually, it's quite bad because you've just been convicted for defamation, convicted
Correct.
of defamation, because you did a thing that you believe is the right thing to do, and it basically involves pedophiles. And so we're going to get into that. But have always been eager to speak to a Swede, at least somebody culturally Swedish, because Sweden is an odd. It's a funny old place, Sweden. It has this reputation of being super mega liberal. So we were just talking off camera about the view of Sweden from outside. If I were to act as a stand-in for everybody's opinion, every European's opinion of Sweden, super duper ultra liberal. However, we all know that you've got now in quite what we would call far right government that's taken at least some control. They're not. Are they in power or they're in coalition?
They're in power. No, they're in power. In
power.
coalition, yes. But they still have a lot of power, yes.
Right. And also the other trope about Sweden is that you were so kind to refugees that a lot of people came to Sweden, and it's very much changed the society, the cultural landscape in the last few years, which is why I guess the far right party, the Sweden Democrats, are in power now. So this is a bit of the reaction, I guess. That's sort of the view we have of outside. And then when your story came up, I saw, wow, that's the main takeaway is that basically pedophiles are being protected more than the people who call out, let's say, pedophiles. That sounded like, yeah, that could be Sweden. So tell me a little bit about Swedish culture. Is this sort of description correct? Is it accurate? And how did we end up in this situation?
It is very accurate. It's atrocious how, because I was raised in the States, we have a completely different justice system there and just a moral compass of what's right and wrong. But yes, Sweden has always been very, very liberal. It's very unusual to find conservatives here, although I'm extremely conservative, and so is my husband. It's just strange why we still live in Sweden.
How do you have any friends in Stockholm?
Most of our friends are conservative, but we have a lot of liberal friends because, and the thing is, I've been on podcasts and I've tried to explain that a country's laws and how it's governed, that's how you kind of conform and form the people. So whatever's normal, whatever the politicians and the media talk about, that's the same opinion that the people, the nation will have. So wherever you lead your people, they're going to follow. And so the politicians have always just been liberal and gone that route. And so the next generation growing up in Sweden is going to think and talk the same way. And of course it's normal. Of course you can't do that. Of course you can only do that. But as for us who have lived in other countries, it's very abnormal. It's not normal. It's not, it's strange. It's like, I usually compare Sweden to being like a little shoebox. You have to be inside the shoebox. But if you try to raise your voice or you try to like, put your arms or your legs outside the shoebox, you're gonna get interrogated. You're gonna get bashed. So you have to kind of think alike, dress alike. Everything is just you need to fit into the Swedish shoebox.
In terms of concrete examples, first of all, give me some examples.
So, for example, immigration. When 2015, our then prime minister said, let's open the borders, let's let everybody in. He just did that without having any idea of what it actually would entail when it comes to integration. How do you integrate them? Where do they live? Are they supposed to learn the language? What are they supposed to survive on? Are they getting grants? There was no structure. The whole structure was not in place to receive all these immigrants. Second of all, when it all backfired and we only saw that it was males coming in, no females, no moms, sisters, kids, it was just males. Nobody raised an eyebrow asking, that's weird, that's strange. Where are all the males? Where are the girls and the women? Usually when there's a war somewhere, those are the first groups to arrive, not men. And then when these men started lying about their ages, saying they were much younger than what they were, and they didn't have any ID, no identification cards, no passports, nothing. They'd thrown those out along the way before they came in here. Nobody raised an eyebrow to that either. So that everything was just so strange in what happened. And of course, a parallel society started developing because these people had to live off of something. Of course, the criminal world started increasing because, where are they supposed to go? How are they supposed to survive and take care of themselves? But still, a few years later, no females were arriving. Where are their moms, aunts, cousins, daughters, sisters?
What year are we talking about now? What period, if you could just...
2015.
Right, the big Rechtschaffendas moment.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's when the Swedish Democrats started getting bigger, when the Swedes realized that, oh my gosh, what's going on in our society? The police force, everyone was starting to react that, okay, this is not good. What's going on? Everything just exploded.
By the way, that's happened in my country, in Ireland also. It happened also in Belgium, but Belgium is funny in the sense that people just don't care. So they don't talk about it. Did you notice that people who tried to talk about it were vilified as far right? And at that point, did you already consider yourself a conservative, or is that how you found out you were a conservative?
No, I mean, I was born and raised in a Christian family, so
Right.
I've always had a conservative stance on things. But I was actually working at City Hall at the time for the moderate party, and I was just astonished. There was no structure in place. There was nothing organized to welcome them, to, get them situated. There was like nothing. They just whelmed in. They just started coming in.
Because in my country's case, in Ireland's case, people strongly suspect that so Ireland, because of some Schengen rule or whatever, Ireland has an opt-out from all this migration stuff if they wanted it, but the Irish government opted in, and so that's how we got the same problem that started much later than what happened in Sweden. And when people try to figure out why, we suspect maybe that the Irish were just trying to please the EU Commission and be a good member state and share. They call it solidarity, sharing the burden, whatever. Fine. Why was Sweden doing it? Why? What?
Probably for the same reason.
Right.
Probably for the same reason that that's what you're supposed to do, and to impress the European Union, maybe.
But why does Sweden care about impressing the European Union? Because what I remembered I wanted to ask you was, a friend of mine once said that Swedish people, very much a generalization, have a kind of arrogance that says we are the best. So it's not, Ireland is very like, oh, we're these like poor sort of idiot peasants on this island. We need to impress Brussels. But Sweden, she told me Sweden's not like that. Sweden's like, we know how to do things best and we're going to show everyone else how to do things. And that's kind of comes up a lot in development policy that I see. Sweden's fingerprints are all over that. And what do you think of that?
Well, it's even more astonishing how we reacted and just let everybody in. If we know how to do things the correct way, if we have a structure in place, if we were prepared, I mean, it's just even more strange. Why didn't we handle this better?
What do you think happened?
I was new in the political realm and at that point. So, and I wasn't that involved politically, even though I worked for a political party. I was just new to the whole scene. So I can't really recall, but I know that it was very strange. You don't let thousands of men into the country if there's no structure, if there's no plan in place. There's no housing, there's no work, there's, not enough money to take care of them. What's the long-term plan? How long are they here for? Nothing of that sort was in place. So it was just they just started coming into our central station by train.
In a way, what you're describing makes absolutely no sense. So
No.
something wrong in the Swedish method of dealing with things,
Yes.
or right. So you see this as a blip.
Yes.
This is not a feature of Swedish. Well, the tolerance part is a feature of Swedish culture, we can say, but the
Yes.
mismanagement is definitely not.
No. It's definitely not. So, I mean, from there on out, it quickly just unraveled.
Right.
Nothing functioned, nothing worked. You place these older male kids or adults, young adults, in school classes where there were younger kids. They were supposed to try to integrate and start speaking Swedish. I mean, it was just very bizarre. Everything was just very, very bizarre. Where were the parents? If men said that they were 13, 14-year-old, that they were in reality 16, 17-year-olds, why were they here? What was their plan? Where were their parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, sisters?
Yeah.
It was just very bizarre. It was just a bunch of men coming in.
Right. So any other examples now? So we're going to get to the specifics of your case, which is extraordinary, in a minute. But so the Swedish tolerance system sort of turned back inwards on itself with the migration story. I think what happened to you maybe is also an example of that. How I guess what some people would call suicidal empathy, but I don't really believe that this is an empathy thing. I'll see what you think about it. But how is it that thing got so messed up that what happened to you, and maybe you can already just dive right into it. Can you start at the beginning, how you got roped into this history?
So 4 years ago, one of my children had a sexual predator near them on a daily basis. I suspected something, but I didn't get any attention from the principal or the teachers or anything at that particular preschool. So I went straight to this person and said, I just want you to stay away from my child because I don't trust you. It was just a gut instinct I had based on his very odd behavior. And I told him that if I'm wrong, then I'm completely wrong. I have no reason not to apologize, but I told him head on, please stay away from my child.
Can I ask, is it possible to tell us in what capacity put this person in proximity to your child?
No, I cannot.
Right. Okay. And also, you had a gut feeling, or you had just a good feeling at this point?
I just had a gut feeling that something was wrong. Just, your motherly instinct that, okay, this is a bad person. This is a bad human being.
Right.
And 4 or 5 months later, it turned out that I was right. So he had not touched my child, but he had touched all of my child's friends. So with that as a background, in 4 years later, this past fall, the next sexual predator crosses my family's path. And it was a neighbor living near us. And I found out about it through another family living here near us who sent me the link of a site called Dumpen, which they work in exposing pedophiles. So they're in chat rooms and they're in all these channels, exposing them.
Right. Can I ask some details, and you can tell me if you can answer or not? So feel free to just say no, can't answer that. So when the first individual you had warned off going anywhere near your child, and then it turned out that person had interfered with other people's children, how did you find that out? Like, without naming names or whatever, but what happened there?
The school sent out an email saying that an individual had been reported to the police and was now paused from his employment. But again, because of how the laws are structured here in Sweden, nothing happened to him. Like most pedophiles, they don't get persecuted. They don't get condemned in court.
So it's likely that that person's job was suspended on the basis of suspicious activity, but not actually any legal, not any conviction.
There was evidence, but not enough evidence. Right. There was evidence, absolutely.
And up until that point, had you chatted with other parents and stuff about this individual's behavior? Like, was this a thing that people talked about?
I didn't do it at that point because I was just trying to protect my child. I was new to this whole arena, and so I just wanted to protect my child. But I still have the other kids on my conscience because I wished I would have said something to the other parent. That's why I did what I did this past fall with this next sexual predator. I raised my voice and I actually went public in 2 Facebook groups, which were closed only for the people.
Hold on, you're running on ahead. Sorry, I'm going to jump in whenever and ask for some details. So this first incident with this first individual, and then you get this circular from the school saying, "Yep, this person is gone now," and you said, "Aha, my instinct was right. If only I had stepped in and said something at the time." The fact that somebody then sent you the link to this Dumpen website, then is that because then you sort of were on some sort of mission and people knew that you were interested in this topic, or was it just happenstance?
No, the 4 years later when I was sent this link to Dumpen, I didn't want to make the same mistake again by not raising my voice, by not warning the people around me, because these parents are still in my life. These kids were still subjected to sexual abuse. And I wish I would have said something back then. So this time I did for the second person.
So somebody just contacted you to say, "Hey, look, this person is in your neighborhood," sort of thing? Or why did they send you that link?
I think that link had probably been sent around to a lot of families with kids here in our neighborhood. So I was just one in a chain. So it just went around and around that, oh my gosh, this man was just recently exposed in our little shopping center here. This is horrible that we have somebody like this living here, it said. So that's when I started with a few other parents to research where exactly he lived and what his last name was, etc., to find out exactly where he lived.
Okay. And so this website that it came from called Dumpen, which means to dump, the dump in Swedish.
Yeah.
Does everyone know this group? Does everyone know this website, or is it a very little known entity?
No, most people know about this website. They've been working with this for about 5 years. And so, and their website is in all kinds of different languages. So you can go out to Dumpen.se and read about it. But they do an amazing job. And there are about 70 people working all over Sweden. And they're in all kinds of channels, encrypted channels and so forth, looking for these men who are trying to contact children.
Right. And how do people, if this topic of before your incident, because now it's kind of blown up in the news a bit, which is good.
Right.
Before then, how did people see that website and the job that they were doing? How was it seen in society?
With mixed emotions. An organization like that they should be welcome. They should be just, embraced with love and appreciation and thankfulness. You would think an organization like that would be accepted like that in, for example, the States. But here, because of our laws and especially the defamation law, people are very, very careful in how they express themselves, what they feel, what they think. So, no, they have not always been accepting of the methods that Dumpen use, which now...
Sorry, did journalists ever use it as a source? Like it was a respectable source, or never?
No. Now they probably should start doing so, because the methods that Dumpen used, those are the methods that the police are going to start using here in Sweden.
Right. Okay.
So
we're going to get on to that.
Yeah. They're very successful. Very
great.
successful.
So just to understand the defamation law, is that a very old Swedish thing, or is that new? Did it start because something in particular happened and now it's being misapplied? And what do you think, or why is it there?
The defamation law is very old. and it's not at all updated according to how our society looks like today. So if you and I live near each other, and I know that there's an evil man living near you, living near your young kids, I'm not allowed to tell you about it. I'm not allowed to talk to you about it and pinpoint this man, this particular person, because that would be defamatory. You could then call the police on me, just like what happened in my case. So people don't talk. They don't want to share. They don't want to talk. A lot of people do and understand that this is about protecting kids. We can't just let people like this thrive around our kids. If somebody knows something, you inform the other parent. But there's a huge risk in doing that.
So I'm trying to understand, can you give me the best use case for that defamation law? So let's defend it for a second. What's a good thing about that law? And I'm also very interested in, if you're actually just having a chat with let's say you go to a dinner and there's 6 people there and you know 5 of them, but you don't know one of them, and you say something, can that be person, that defames a business owner or whatever, that person might go, like, how does it affect personal relationships? So maybe first of all, yeah, defend it, like steel man it, and then tell me how it affects personal, intimate conversations, if it does at all.
So the heart of the law was probably good from the start. Like, you can't just accuse innocent people of serious crimes. You have to have evidence. But then when Swedish society became the way it became, our laws didn't start getting updated, reflecting today's society. So it was meant for something good back in the day when we didn't have these.
So that you could ruin someone's reputation, but that was when
Right,
Swedish society was very homogenous and everyone kind of thought the
right,
same.
right, right.
Right.
So it was meant for something good back then, but now it does more harm than good because it actually protects the sexual predators. They hide behind this law because they know that what they're doing wasn't or isn't illegal. It's going to be illegal to chat with kids sexually now, but it wasn't before. So they could hide behind this law because they knew that, you know, she's defaming me. The proof that is out there isn't legit in the courts or with the police.
Let me just imagine a situation where 20 years ago, before social media, which also this law was designed before the age of social media, I
Hmm.
can imagine. I know that there's a dodgy guy in our neighborhood and you're my neighbor. Would people feel paranoid about sharing that information with each other like just in conversations? Or like, I mean, I can still warn people about dodgy stuff, can I? Or how much does such a law affect actual private conversations that people have? Like, do you feel it sounds really big brotherish, that there's a law that you can't say things about someone that isn't true, because then what about comedy? What about all everything like that? Like, what are there exceptions?
I think back in the day, people could talk about these things and share these things amongst each other because you didn't have, like you say, social media. You didn't have the internet where, just with the click, everything is exposed, everything is out there. So you could, I think, in another sense, talk about these things neighborly amongst each other, amongst friends, and it wasn't like a big deal. But ever since the internet and social media exploded, everything is out there. It gets exposed on a completely different level. Even though these 2 Facebook groups that I exposed him in are closed, they still have a few thousand people in them in each one, which is still considered big groups.
Right.
Um,
So you received the link, and somebody was saying,
mhm.
look, this guy is someone that is in your in your physical entourage. What was the first thing that you did then?
So we were several parents trying to figure out where exactly he lived. And then I felt like in my group, the Facebook group that is nearest my neighborhood, I did in 2 groups, the neighborhood right next to us as well. I felt that I needed to expose him. I knew the defamation law, so I knew what I was doing was taking a risk. But like I said, because I still have these other kids on my conscience and I didn't warn the other parents when my child was younger, I felt that, you know what, I need to do that now because this isn't okay. These predators are everywhere and they're definitely amongst where our kids are. with sports activities, school, wherever kids are, even social platforms, that's where they're at. And because he was living so close to us, I felt that no, I need to expose this man.
Right.
Because I had the evidence from Dumpen. I had the sex chats, the phone calls. Dumpen exposes them. Yeah. Dumpen exposes pictures of him that he exposed himself in these chat rooms.
I need to ask you, because you're speaking, right, so we're going to talk about the evidence in a moment, but you're speaking in very strong terms that would be considered defamation, because you're saying that he did that thing. So I'm like, are you breaking the law? We can cut this out if it needs to be cut out, but are you breaking the law by saying these things right now? We haven't said his name.
Right. No, but yeah, because this is still defamation. I'm not allowed to warn anybody or talk about him, even though his sex chats and phone calls, and he mentions himself by first name. He himself had uploaded and put pictures in these chat forms of himself. I'm still not allowed, even though he's convicted. Let's say he is convicted, which he's not. But let's say that a sexual predator is convicted, I still can't talk about him, even though he's got a conviction in court. No, it's still defamation.
What?
I'm not allowed to spread. Yeah, I'm not allowed to spread that kind of information.
This is like anti-human almost.
Exactly.
Right. So hold on. This guy, how sure are you that he is, no, not that he has ever committed sexual crimes against children. How sure are you that he seeks, or he at least at one point was seeking to sexually abuse children?
Because you could read it in his chat form. He asks,
Right.
he tells, it's all there, what he wants to do with kids.
Okay. And Dumpen are allowed to say these things and make these claims, or do they just give the info?
No,
do they just give the data and the screenshots?
They're actually a publishing house. They're a media house. So they're allowed to expose and upload these chats and phone calls, etc.
Right.
Because they go under the publishing. So they're allowed to do that.
Right. And you are not. You're just a Facebook mom?
No. Yeah,
Right.
I know. As a private citizen, no, I'm not allowed.
So you say you knew the defamation law. So what would have happened if you had just taken the Dumpen link and just dumped it in the Facebook group? What would have happened?
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did.
What you did.
No, it would still have been defamation.
Okay. So a media outlet is allowed for the purposes of journalism.
But I, as a private citizen, am not. Nope.
All right. And then again, we just have to remind everyone that people are defaming people in a legal sense all the time. It's only if someone takes a case that it becomes an issue, because so we'll get onto that in a minute. Just a bit of details about this guy. We're obviously not, let's not say his name here, but how did you find out where he lives? How far away was he from you and the other parents? And how urgent did it feel to share this information about him?
Compared to like the States, it's very easy to find out people's private information here, their address, cell phone numbers. You could get their paychecks, how much they earn. You could get most information by just Googling. Some sites require that you pay a small amount, a fee, to find out. But here you could find out anything about anybody really quickly online.
This is also a high trust society hangover.
Right. So, we were a few parents who actually started Googling and doing research trying to find his last name and where he lived. And it only took us a few hours to locate him with some investigative work. So it was fairly easy.
And did he turn out to be geographically close to you at all? Like how when we say neighborhood, what are we talking about? Because we know Sweden is a vast rural wasteland in some parts.
So we live in a very family-oriented neighborhood. Everybody knows of everyone. There's a lot of families with young children here, a lot of senior citizens. We have schools, preschools. We have a small little shopping center. It's very familiar. It's very, very small, but yet very close to Stockholm. It quickly spread like fire who this man was to everyone living in the neighborhood.
And does he have kids?
He has older kids, yes.
Right. And so what's his age range, more or less?
Probably in his late 50s.
Right. And he lives alone, or does he have a wife?
To my knowledge, yes.
Right. So we've got this creepy old dude living in this idyllic community. He gets exposed. He gets trapped by some vigilante pedo hunters. It gets shared around the neighborhood. It spreads like wildfire. How are people spreading it to each other? Like in the usual WhatsApp groups, chatting at the school gates type thing?
Well, when Dumpen exposes them, that's where journalists and the media picked up. And so they quickly spread his information on various platforms. I did it in his community where we both lived. So that's why I got the brunt of it. He was just chasing me to try to fight me down by going to the police and reporting me. But how
Right.
it was probably shared in text messaging, WhatsApp, all different,
But are you
closed.
saying that the media picked up on this particular story from Dumpen and the links to those media stories were shared, or what do you mean?
Well, I found that there were major players in the financial world on another platform that had hashtagged him, his employer, and Dumpen, exposing him there. So I was only doing it in these two closed Facebook groups because my intent was only to warn the people around me, the families and the kids. I couldn't care less about the rest of the world. My thing was just, this is where I live. This is where all our kids are running around, playing and stuff, and they have school and all that. So my goal was only to warn the people living in my neighborhood. But yeah, of course, when Dumpen exposes something, because they're a media outlet and they have thousands of followers, that anybody can go in there and pick this up.
So, but we're not talking about like local news saying, okay, Dumpen have just released news of another pedo. That's not ever happening. Like, that's not.
No, so it was when the first police report came to my knowledge, I got a defense attorney, a really good one, and went to the police station because I was summoned there to give my statement. That's when the media started picking it up. I think shortly after I was called to trial, that's when the media, because that it becomes public information. So that's when the media picked it up and
Okay, well,
started writing about me.
right. And how did they write about you?
They were very just objective that here's this mom, she's chasing this so-called pedophile, and now she's being called into court, for defamation. And most medias were very objective.
Okay, and was that the first time that this kind of thing had happened? Like that Dumpen had reported a thing,
No,
somebody had shared a thing?
no, there were several parents before me throughout the years that have done the same,
Okay.
and they've also been convicted of defamation. So,
Okay.
no, I wasn't the first one.
Right. And what happened in their cases? Did everyone get
They
convicted?
were all convicted. Yeah, they were all convicted. You're not
Right.
allowed to
So
share this kind of information with anybody.
I would, I'm gonna show my bias here, but I would consider it a badge of honor. Sorry. To
Well,
be
that's how
convicted.
that's what I'm doing. That it is a badge of honor.
Good for you.
I'm protecting kids. I'm not only protecting my kids, I'm protecting kids, everyone's kids. You can't
You
have you can't
yeah.
have these monsters running around in society and then you're being told to stay quiet about it because there's a
But what
defamation law.
can you respond to the counter argument though that you'd have to be absolutely sure that this person had due process and this person didn't have due process? What do you say to those?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't just make things up for anybody because Dumpen had exposed his sex chats, phone calls. It was all there, black and white. I decided to pursue it because I knew that, okay, he's acknowledging that it is him. He's calling himself by his first name. He's uploading pictures of himself. He's stating what he wants to do with kids. I mean, it's there
Did
black and
he
white.
did he
And
ever
then when
try to claim that it wasn't him?
no, mm-mm,
Right.
no,
Did he ever
he
say it was
confessed.
him? He
Yes.
confessed. So
Yeah, he
we
confessed that that's him. He confessed in
right.
court, yes.
Okay, so just to sum this up, we've got a guy who admits that he writes these things and seeks out children to abuse. And I think we can link to Julie Bindle's story to see some of
Mhm.
those screenshots. It was in the Telegraph this week.
Yes.
So Julie Bindel was over there. And so this guy is seeking out a child. He didn't manage to because it was a sting, but you shared information like many other people in various groups, and he never denied it, but he went to the police and he said, somebody's defamed me for exposing things that I said. What happens as far as, because you must be an expert in this now, which countries deal with this kind of thing the best, and what would happen in a decently functioning legal system after this man was exposed?
Well, I compare Sweden to the States because that's where I grew up and that's where I know what's going on. The U.S. even have apps for pedophiles when they're convicted. Wherever they move, the app is updated with
Wow.
a color picture of them, their address, what they've been convicted of, how long they were in jail for, etc. So that when you move into a new neighborhood, you're in complete control over who's living there if you have a sex offender there. So that's my background, and that, yeah, whoever you talk to, they're on the right side of this morally. Of course, they're going to be against the pedophile. But here in Sweden, when you talk about it, people are really scared. There's a cowardness because of the defamation law. They just, they don't know how to react. They don't know what to say. They're very afraid. I've gotten mixed reactions. Most parents are very supportive and in my corner, backing me up. But there have been parents that they just don't know what to do with me. They don't know, should I say hi? Should I talk to her? It just becomes this awkward thing. And I
And of the
mean,
parents who have told you, I disagree with what you did, what's their argument?
no one's actually said I disagree. They just don't want to talk about it.
Right.
They're
That
just
makes more
afraid.
sense.
They're it's like a hot topic. You just, oh, I don't know
And
what to
if
say. I mean,
And if you forced them into a torture chamber and said, I'm going to torture you if you don't tell me the reason why you crossed the street when you saw me yesterday, and they said, I just don't want to talk about it. You said, no, what do you really like? What's the main objection? I suppose there's been objections in the press, I guess, opinions
yeah.
and stuff. But what's the big objection that you couldn't, he didn't get the right, you have to do things a certain way and you went the wrong way about it, or what's the argument?
I think they're just afraid because they know of the defamation law. They don't know how to handle it. Personally, I think they're absolutely on my side. I mean, who can't be? We're all parents. We have young children. Nobody wants to see a child get abused. But why they're officially, like, in society not backing me up? Same thing with my workplace. I just don't know why I'm being punished. Why it's not, this is like a medal of honor. It's a badge of honor. There's so many parts in this that is so astonishing to me, how people cannot be backing me up and supporting me. A lot of them do. We raised a lot of money in a short amount of time. So I know that there's a lot of Swedes out there that are definitely on my side. But it's a very strange reaction having lived and comparing Sweden to the States, where morally the Swedes are just, in my opinion, completely lost.
Can we do a cultural comparison then again more broadly? So there's an argument to be made that let's take the concept of freedom, which the Americans are all about, and the Swedes are also all about in a sense. Swedes are like very liberal in one way, and the Americans are very liberal in their way. There's an argument to be made that it interferes with somebody's freedom to have an app go off every time they move to a new neighborhood to alert everyone else that they were convicted of child sex crimes. That's kind of it's sort of like the way when I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a typical American thing to do, is somebody to set
Mhm.
up an app that pings, but then there's an argument to be made. It's really, and shows up in stark contrast how these two types of freedom are considered, because in Sweden we're sort of saying this guy should be free to be able to get a job and do whatever, even though he may even has spent some time in prison for doing something very bad, but that's what prison's for, is rehabilitation or whatever. Which one of those is real freedom? Let's take some other type of crime, because this one is too emotional and too sensitive. But I mean, would an American culturally, and this is just talking out my arse just for the fun of it, but would an American consider it fair and conducive with freedom if for other crimes, let's say, for example, every time you moved into a neighborhood and you had been a carjacker, that there was an alert went off and you found it impossible to get a job? Like, there is that sort of argument to be made.
Right. When it comes to sex offenses, because I don't know what the word is, when you fall back into your old behavior, your patterns again. Like there's this demand. Återfalls.
Recidivism. No.
Yeah, where, you can't heal a
Right,
sexual
right, right.
predator
Right.
because they're going to go back to their
You
old
can't
ways.
rehabilitate them.
Yeah, you can't rehabilitate them. That's why there's apps specifically for sex offenders, because
Right.
it's not only common knowledge, they've done research on this, that you can't rehabilitate them because they just go back to their old ways. That's why you have to warn. They're not allowed to live near schools, etc. in the state. Same thing here in Sweden. Dumpen can attest to this too. You can't rehabilitate them because they just go back to their old ways. So you have to find a way to warn others, especially if you have evidence. And I'm talking about that there's proof. There has to be proof. And even more so if they're convicted. Only 4% gets convicted of this crime here in Sweden. So because of the laws, again, it's all about the laws. We have to completely redo the laws.
So in order to have a functioning society where everyone is free to live their best lives, you can't have sexual predators basically people who commit sex crimes against kids. You need to keep tabs on them. This is what we've sort of figured out in America.
Absolutely. Right. Because here, when a sexual predator decides to start working in a school, unless he's got a conviction, there's no way of seeing how many police reports he's got against him. You can't see that. You only see the convictions when you do a background check on him.
And just as a comparison, in the UK, for example, if a guy who had allegations against him went to go get a job in a school, would those allegations surface? Because you know that this story in France right now, this little girl.
In Sweden, no, the allegations don't surface. Only if you've got conviction. So he can have 300 allegations and it still won't be visible. He'll still get the job at the school.
Right. And has any proper effort ever been made to fix that in Sweden before you came along?
Right now, yes. They've, when this happened 4 years ago, I took it to the national level and I did talk about it. Nothing concrete happened then. But right now, the Social Democrats, with the moderate party, but it's still the Social Democrats that owns this question, is working on this because there's so many loopholes for these sexual predators to jump through and actually get jobs near kids.
So you, 4 years ago, you took it to a national level. Who did you take it to and what was the response?
I wasn't visible in media like I am now. Media was connected to it. I called the media, but I wasn't, because it wasn't I didn't feel the need to pursue it then like I am now, the second time around. It completely triggered me in another sense. That now I realize there's so many of them out there and something needs to happen. So I probably need to show my face and be the face of this and just go for it because I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 2 young children and this is not okay. This is not okay. I mean, kids are not being protected in Sweden against sexual abuse. They're not. There's so many laws protecting the sexual predators, but not our kids. And how can this be 2026? And why are the laws still the way they are?
What is the explanation for why the law, as it functions, protects the predators and not the whistleblowers, or protects the predators and not the kids? What is the best society-wide explanation for that?
The politicians don't take the time or the energy or the media in exposing these questions, in wanting to talk about these matters, in bringing this up on a national level, like, oh, look at these laws. We have to do something about them. This is not okay. Dumpen has been talking to the government and the media about this for 5 years, ever since they started their organization, their media house. And I mean, everything is working in such slow motion, but most political parties do not want to touch the subject.
Really.
It's election year here in Sweden right now, and only 2 of the political parties are talking about this. The
And
other
what,
ones,
like,
no.
it's sort of because it's just seen as lower class. It's sort of seen as, because I know in my, I'm just comparing with other countries. The only ones who would touch it are ones who aren't afraid of being call it's a little bit like every time I post something about pedophiles, you get 100 people in the comments with a picture of a wood chipper, this wood chipper meme,
Mhm.
or saying just the word wood chipper or whatever. So there's this real like base reaction to this that's always exactly saying, just put this person in a wood chipper and forget about it. But then you have what you're supposed to think, which is due process against capital punishment. So there's these two ends of the spectrum. There's like murder this person immediately or jail with no release ever. And then the other end, which is like, no, human rights, blah, blah, blah. Only right-wing parties or people are happy to be aligned with the base instinct gut reaction type of thing. It's seen as unsophisticated, I guess. So that's why I think, is this why the media elites don't touch this? Because they don't want to be seen as trash, red meat, bumpkin, sort of unsophisticated, uncultured. What's your best guess?
My best guess is that it's a very controversial question. It's a controversial issue in Sweden because we're so liberal, which it shouldn't be at all. I mean, who does not want to protect kids from sexual
Yeah, I'm
predators?
confused.
But you also have these predators everywhere in the
Mm-hmm.
police force, amongst lawyers, doctors, in the courts. They're everywhere. They're everywhere in society. And you can't tell from the outside, but they all gather here because of how liberal Sweden is.
Oh,
So their network is very powerful here in Sweden. They're very powerful and they're everywhere. So I'm sure they're in the media as well. But it still astonishes me that not more political parties and the governing parties right now have done more about it. Not even the opposing political parties have ever done anything about it in their previous years.
and
So
so
this
why is it seen as a good issue for Sweden Democrats then, the right wing party, the far right party? Why do you think?
they are conservative. They have been listening to Dumpen for quite a few years. They do understand the extent of this, how widespread it is in Sweden, and how the need to protect our children and try to change these laws. They're the only ones that have the guts to say anything about it in media and actually take a stance on this matter.
Right. Okay, so it happened. Then you posted this post. What was the reaction in the Facebook posts immediately afterwards? And how long did
Uh,
it take before you got called to the police?
Most were supportive. Some people wanted to hang me, wanted terrible things to happen to me because they didn't believe in Dumpen at all, and they just thought that I was ratting somebody out. That was very he was he's educated, he has a powerful job, that I was just trying to hang him out. So it was mixed emotions, especially after my TV interview with the state channel here. Um, that was very mixed. So they had to close down the comment field of it because there was so much hatred towards me, which
The guy
again
was
is just
powerful.
astonishing. Just
The
astonishing.
guy was powerful. I've read, I think, was it in the Telegraph or I read somewhere else that they're saying there are rumors that Dumpen are basically trying to, what's the words? Extort people and make
No,
money.
that it's just false information. They live
Right.
off of donations, and they do an amazing job. They work around the clock. Sarah, who's one of the founders, is battling cancer at the same time as she's
Yeah,
doing
I
this.
saw that.
So, no,
Right,
there's
but my
nothing like
question
that.
is that how people justified their disagreement? Was like, no, 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 you're this is an extortion scheme. Is that what they said? Because I can't understand how somebody was saying, no, it's not good to call out pedophiles in your neighborhood. Keep them safe. Like nobody was saying
I
that.
I think it's again, politicians and media haven't really talked about Dumpen's methods. These are methods that the police are working on and adapting right now. But their Dumpen is not luring out, but they're playing character that they are, for example, a pedophile mom or their pedophile or their kids, young kids. So they're playing this game in these chat rooms, talking to these men, and the way they go about it, that's just reality. But I think to a lot of people, because Dumpen hasn't been portrayed rightfully or, in media or gotten good publicity, people are just very negative about it.
Right,
That
because they make the
they're
arguments, I guess.
ignorant. Yeah, they're ignorant. They just don't know enough, but they're very harsh to condemn. That, oh my
Right.
gosh, this poor guy, this mom is just badgering him, for wanting
Oh
to have sex
God.
with kids. And it's like, no, I
What
mean,
a
there's
bitch.
proof. Yeah, exactly. So it's just, and again, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so typical Sweden, liberal Sweden. It's this, you have to stay inside your little shoebox. You can't
Because if the
leave your
police were doing
shoebox.
their because if the police were doing the same methods, they would be okay with that because it would be
Yeah,
officialdom. Right.
yeah,
Okay. So
exactly.
it's just that. So there's this sort of thing where, like, again, it's a contradiction because Sweden is so advanced in so many ways. Like, the establishment sometimes needs to be questioned and fixed and reformed and improved
Mm-hmm.
upon. That's how Sweden became
Mm-hmm.
Sweden in the first place. But this sort of seems like an inversion of that, where it's just like, no, 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 just go along with this stupid, like,
Yep.
obviously dysfunctional thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Dumpen is a reaction to a system that's kind of broken.
Right. That's why Dumpen exists. I mean, they've exposed around 800 men these past 5 years. 800 men. And that's
And
just the
is
tip of the iceberg.
And is it that, maybe Angelica, is it that, because I'm just trying to think about how this looks to somebody with very, very lib brain. Is it that people are like, oh, but even if there was 800 and there was one of those who wouldn't have maybe done this if he wasn't broke, alcoholic, just lost his job, wife left him, sort of thing? Is that sort of where our sympathy is going? Is that where people's sympathy is going, is for that one hypothetical? Because I'm a TERF. I don't know if you know what that is, but that's like it's funny because my podcast is basically about being a TERF. But my basically, I don't accept that some people are born in the wrong body, and this is very controversial. And especially when it comes to kids, I don't think kids should be transitioned. And I think that people, very liberal people, do whatever they want with their own bodies. But when you go to change the law to say that this person is a man and he must be allowed into women's spaces, etc., that's where I draw the line. That's basically my whole philosophy. And the reason why this issue has gotten so far is because even though there are so many people who've been damaged by this ideology that I speak out against, they holding out the possibility that there's one person who's actually really truly trans and in the wrong body and harmless, and oh God, how could you? And it's like, right, but we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
society wide functioning. Like, you can't
Mm-hmm.
live in a neighborhood full of kids with a pedo. You can't let men into a prison, into a women's prison, just because he says he's a woman, because the chances that something goes wrong are just way too high. Is that why is that the empathetic hope that people are holding out against when they condemn you for what you did, do you think?
You're onto something there. So it's very possible. It's very possible. Again, I think it's the way the politicians and the media outlets have led this nation, what they've allowed to be talked about and not talked about, what's been discussed and not discussed, and how it's in what direction we're leading our nation plays also a huge part of it. Why this is so controversial to talk about. Why am I being punished for wanting to protect kids from sexual predators? I mean, so many countries, including the States, are looking at Sweden and just, astonished. Like, what's wrong? Why do you guys not have laws where you actually convict sexual, predators?
It's funny that I've never
Um,
heard about this legal reality in Sweden until
they
I came
don't they
across your
don't write
case.
they don't write about it. It's just, to them, it's like a non-issue. To the media outlets and to the politicians, it's a non-issue. They just don't want to open their eyes and see what's going on. But yet we have allegations against teachers, against doctors and so forth, and the media writes about them, but nothing actually happens. I mean, there's gymnastic teachers that have taken pictures of naked kids, and okay, they get exposed in media and they get an allegation with the police, and then nothing happens. It doesn't go national to where, doesn't go up to the next level where politicians are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible with this one teacher. We need to do something about this. No, it just keeps on going. Nothing happens.
Okay, and there's no mob justice because that's uncouth, I guess. And then when somebody does try to mete out some mob justice, it's called out as unfair, unsophisticated, blah blah blah, whatever.
Mhm.
One last thing before I let you finish to get to where we are today, because obviously people are going to be very interested in knowing what happened next after you gave your statement to the police. I just want to make one last comment or ask your opinion about the society and why Sweden is like that. I'm doing air quotes for anyone who is listening without the video. There's an idea that in liberal societies such as Sweden, there is no limiting principle to how wide you can open the circle of justice. So, there's we're expanding all the time who we include in the circle of acceptability. So we used to we used to be locked up in insane asylums, but then we stopped doing that and we started treating them properly. And then prisoners used to be murdered, and then we stopped doing that and we gave them a chance to be rehabilitated. Transsexuals used to be seen as kind of weird, but okay, whatever, until we started putting them on a pedestal as the civil rights heroes, and then anything goes. The human rights'ification of everything, you could say, and so one of the things I've always asked about is, the trans thing, which is my topic, has led to some really perverse outcomes, such as men and women's prisons. It doesn't matter that a man pretends to be a woman in most areas of life, and who cares? I don't care. I care about it though when it comes to things like, oh, he's not joining my daughter's ballerina class, and I'm not going to pretend that he is. And so I've always thought, like, if this theory of no limiting principle to the possibilities of this, the ever expanding circle of who we consider acceptable in society, why haven't pedophiles yet been included in that circle? Because in the society and the culture that I live in and the culture that I know, the circle has not expanded to include them yet. But it sounds from your story that Sweden is a bit advanced in that, and we are accepting pedophiles into our circle of who and what deserves to be considered. Oh, like,
Mm.
oh,
Mm.
oh, poor guy. This is sort of what sounds to me like has happened. Would that
Yes.
be, what do you think about this
Yes.
idea, the limiting principle of your empathy and Swedish society?
It's exactly what's going on. I think if the Swedish people actually went to Dumpen's website and read the text chats, listened to the phone calls, they would get a rude awakening. These people are everywhere. They're not just in one. They're not just one category. They're widespread everywhere because of the laws. So yeah, absolutely. Because of how the legal system looks, and because media doesn't talk about this, it's like a taboo. Like, that's why I'm being treated the way I'm being treated among some of the parents here. They just don't know how to handle me. Well, I mean, of course I want to protect kids, but oh my gosh, yeah, the law, and oh, look, she's convicted, and oh, this is terrible. But I think what the Swedish Democrats are doing right now with the moderate party is actually talking about, especially now since it's election year and we have our national elections in September, they're making this a more common subject. We have to
Right.
talk about it. These are the laws that we're changing. Dumpen is being seen with the politicians in pictures. They're having
Brilliant. Okay.
interviews. They're working together. It's like, okay, the pedophiles are being included in this fold of criminals that we have to act on. We have criminal gangs here. We're working so hard to eliminate them, to, try to get them out of our country, try to, like, stop them in our society. But I feel like we have to do the same thing with the pedophiles because they're equally, if not even more harmful, and they have an extremely strong network. So now I think because this issue is in the media, politicians are talking about it, we might have a chance
The
if depending on in what way the election goes. If the
The
opposition
Omerta the
wins,
Omerta has at least been broken, but
yes.
the problem always is, because it's only the Sweden Democrats, because it's only the far right that
Mm,
talk about it,
mm,
it becomes their issue, and then to vote against them is to vote against this. So this is the problem with it's
right.
become, when it becomes political, it shouldn't be political at all.
No, no, it shouldn't. And if the opposition wins, because they're not in this, they're not in the media right now. They don't own this question. Nothing's gonna. I'm just afraid that nothing's gonna happen. We're
So,
just gonna backtrack.
would it be fair to simplify it by saying that a defeat for the Sweden Democrats would be a defeat for Dumpen?
In my personal opinion, yes, it
That's
would be
not
devastating. It
So
would be devastating.
it's the risk, isn't it? By getting political backing and politicizing, by making it a political issue, then you tie it to the fate of a particular party, and that's just a disaster. But at the same time, you're stuck. What are you
Right.
supposed to do? Like,
I mean, I want this to be as widespread as possible. The whole government, every political party should be talking about this right now and bringing it up and coming with suggestions. This is how we want to change the laws. This is what we're going to do. This is how convictions are going to be, the regulations around
decided.
it. This is how the police methods are going to be. But, it should be abroad. Everybody, media should be on top of this, forcing the politicians to talk about it and make a change. But they're not.
Right. I've taken up already not just 1 hour, but 1 hour and a half, because we had 25 minutes of technical issues beforehand. So we need to get to the end. We need to get up to speed to today, why you're here sitting here today talking to me. So what happened then? How did it go from this? What did he do? Do we know? And what did he accuse you of? And how did we get to the point where people are talking about amending laws?
So, in short, I went to court. I was convicted of defamation. I sat across from him. My defense attorney read all the sex chats, played the phone calls, but I was still convicted of defamation because it's a no-no. I can't be spreading this material around. I can't be accusing him of things, even though it's obvious what kind of a man he is. So now I have to pay up. I have to pay up the punitive
Punitive
penalties,
damages.
towards him, as well as all the court costs.
How
But
much are we talking about in euros?
this was in Swedish crowns, it's around 120,000. So I think like 12,000 euros or something like that, which we collected within a few hours. So once the influencers, then other very important people in society with a lot of followers, had read up about my conviction, they spread it, and we got the fund, and
Yeah,
they're still taking in.
you keep saying we. You mean you and your lawyer and your supporters? You and your lawyer, you and your husband? Like, when you say we, are you talking about? Is there a group of you now, or?
Yes, there's a group of me. It's me, my husband, and a group of us. And so I had a Why Donate collection site that we started spreading, and it started going viral. And so one individual in particular, who used to be a politician, have a lot of followers, and he decided, like a lot of other people, to write about me and to
Very good.
include my
Okay.
collection site. So it was an overwhelming, all these comments and positive feedback and people supporting me, rallying around me from all over Sweden. It was very powerful, very overwhelming. And it just felt so good in my heart to see that, okay, I have the Swedish people, I have the majority of the Swedish people backing me up on this matter.
It's funny, isn't it? It's a funny thing because
It's
it's such a
so bizarre.
it's a
I
real
mean, I
populist
feel
issue,
I
but it
feel
shouldn't,
I
like.
feel like I'm in a Twilight movie. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's crazy, especially coming from my background. It's so strange.
And what are all the posh people saying?
Some posh people are with me. Some posh
Right.
people have no comment.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Very Swedish. Very,
Interesting.
very Swedish.
Right.
Typical Sweden.
What's the situation with the amendments to the law? Are we talking about a new criminal law? Or are we talking about an amendment to an existing law? What's the legal situation?
Amendment to existing laws, as well as hopefully new laws. We'll see. Our election is mid-September, so we'll see how far they go. But they're working overtime right now, the Swedish Democrats with the moderate
Right.
party. So we'll
I hope
see
they
what
name it
happens.
after you or one of the victims.
As long as it changes, that's my whole goal. I just want to protect kids. I'm just fed up with them being tortured and their lives are being damaged like this. And
In terms
no,
of yeah, go
society
ahead,
isn't
sorry.
society isn't or our legal system isn't protecting our young kids.
It's not doing its duty, because that's our
No.
duty, isn't it?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
in terms of technical details, just for people who care about legal stuff, what are we asking for? What are you asking for? What's the most workable solution to what would happen in your specific case if the laws were as they should be?
Well, I'm working towards a change in the defamation law so we parents and grown-ups can actually start
Oh,
protecting our kids with society. I also want to see a change in the law when it comes to evidence. showing proof of evidence in the court that these chats and sex phone calls and so forth need to be legit. That's what we base the conviction of. That should be enough, even though they're not real children or real, grown-ups on the other side. When these pedophiles chat with you in the channels, it's still, you're getting exactly the goal of what a pedophile wants to do. That should be enough. Their intent of what they want to do, and then they set up a meeting to meet with that child or that pedophile mom, that should be enough to convict them before a real child gets abused.
And do you have another, it would be really cool to know if there's a European country or specifically an EU country that has a model law that the Swedish Democrats might be trying to model their law on, or is it completely it's a very unique thing?
That I can't say. I'm not sure which country would come closest to this, if it is the UK or I'm not sure.
Because we're not going to get apps that ping every time a pedophile moves. We're definitely not getting that.
No. But just that these two laws are regulated would help a lot. And also when these men and even these pedophile women try to get a job where there are kids, that background check needs to reflect even the allegations. If there's allegations of sex or violence towards a child, those allegations should be on that piece of paper in that background check, not just convictions.
At a minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
This is the limits of anti-discrimination, isn't it? We're right up against the cold face of the when anti-discrimination turns into something demonic. Basically, I'm not a religious person, but I use that word.
No, but I totally agree. It's completely demonic. I mean, who wants to do these things towards young children? From babies, 1-year-old up to teenagers. Who wants to do these awful, horrendous things to them? It's it's sickening. It's sickening. They're so disturbed.
People.
Yes, they're evil. They're straight out evil.
I spent some time on Roblox and things like that I was writing about it recently. I write about like child sex abuse and prostitution and stuff as well. And I was reading the reports of which platforms in European countries are most popular for pedophiles, or actually which ones produce the most reports. And every country was different, which was interesting. And in Ireland, it was TikTok. So I went on TikTok and I just typed in little girl dancing and I just saw child porn straight away, just immediately.
Yeah, the grooming process here is very advanced. Which it is probably in most countries, but they know exactly what social platforms the kids are on. They know exactly how to lure them in to their cages and, get them where they want them to do and be. And so the grooming process, Dumpen shares a lot of information about the grooming process. It's widespread. They're very professional in how they lure kids in. So on all social platforms.
Right. So well done you. Go girl, etc.
Thank you.
And your next big milestone then will be the election, because if the election of Sweden Democrats goes through, then you're going to get the law tabled, maybe draft bill tabled.
They'll keep on working on this. Yes, that I am 100% confident they will.
Okay, Angeliqa, it sounds like you're hard at work. I wish you the best. We didn't talk about it much, but your work situation isn't ideal.
No.
But you're going to keep your job.
Yes, I will keep my job. Another kind of, it won't be the same job tasks I've had because I've what I stand for. And it has nothing to do with kids. So I'm not, it's not even connected to children. But it's very uncomfortable and very awkward that I'm in the media. So
you need to go back to California and you'd be buying you cakes instead of
oh my gosh, and just relaxing and just where normal people live.
I feel the same sometimes going to California, though I've never even been, because things are getting weird. Things are getting very weird. Thank you.
They're weird. There's no perfect country anywhere, but when it comes to pedophiles, at least the States is, they're on the right side of the moral compass.
Right. Yeah. Good for you. Thank you for sharing your story, Angeliqa.
Thank you.
And take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Thank you.
If you like my work, you can subscribe to my newsletter by going to peaked.substack.com and taking out a paid subscription.